How we doing today, guys? Sam and Aiden back with you guys with this week's fishing report. So we know Rockfish is going to be closing here on Saturday, so there's a ton of other stuff you can do in the bay. It does not mean it's a total shutdown of fishing in the bay. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there. Why don't you talk about the perch fishing, which is one of our most popular summertime activities for us here in the bay.
All right, guys, so with perch fishing, if you're fishing for perch in your rivers, local rivers, creeks, stuff like that, you're going to tend to take some sort of perch pounder, spinner, something like that, throw it towards the bank, towards docks, reel it in. If you're fishing out main bay, you're going to want to take something like these razor clams here, or maybe our soft crabs or crab aprons we got right over here. And you're going to want to just put them down on the bottom with maybe a top and bottom rig, some small J hooks, something like that.
There's kind of endless options as far as bait goes for white perch, especially in the summer months. Any hard bottom in about 10 to 20 feet. I would say Solomon's Island and north, you're really going to find a lot of perch this time of the year out on the main part of the bay. And like you said, in the river systems, there's plenty of great fishing back in the creeks, small spinners, stuff like that. Moving on to, headed a little bit south of us, is speckled trout. Speckled trout is a great fishery here on the bay. Everywhere from the Trop Tank and south over on the east side has been really good this year. Casting small paddletails like you see here is probably what you're going to see most folks doing. 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce heads. You can put these in a popping cork. You can cast and retrieve them. There's all sorts of options there. You can bait fish for speckled trout too. I really like Carolina rig back in the shallows with some soft crab is a good option, or even some cut shrimp. That can produce really well. It's something I think a lot of people forget about when you're trout fishing, but you can catch them with bait for sure. In that same realm, of course, down at the lower end of the bay or towards that Maryland, Virginia line, redfish and cobia is great this time of the year. Fishing a lot of big bass if you want to sight fish more. 10-inch BKDs or live eels are going to be your most popular for the cobia. The 7-inch or an 8-inch pink Z-mans are really, really popular for guys going out there for those bigger redfish. Heavier jig heads, 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces, stuff like that. You're going to run into those once you get down towards that Maryland, Virginia line. But another thing that we don't want to forget about is catfishing. So why don't you talk a little bit about those?
All right, so catfish you're going to find pretty much anywhere in the bay. You got your two main species are going to be your channel cats and your blue catfish. My favorite way to catch catfish is with LY here. You're going to want to chunk little, probably 2-inch by 1-inch strips. Put it right under the spine of the fish. Throw it on with 2-ounce weight, circle hook, and a fish finder. And pretty much anywhere you're going to find them. Any of your creeks, out in the middle of the bay. Pedickery is a great spot for them, as well as hackets, and sometimes over on the eastern shore as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for catfish. Really, like you said, in the river systems out on the main part of the bay, they're kind of just everywhere at this point. So talking about those, we are going to have a big social media competition for catfish coming up here shortly. You're going to see a bunch of details on that coming later. But some of the great baits for them, like you said, at LY, that's probably going to be your #1 bet. But catfish will eat just about anything you want to put on the bottom. I know some guys fishing over at like Chesapeake and Romancoke have been doing well on the fresh cut shrimp for them. That's another good option. Razor clams are great. Put 2 or 3 of those on your circle hook. Circle hook size, we're using a pretty big bait, a pretty big circle hook. One thing to keep in mind with the circle hook is that hook point is going to bend in, and when that happens, you lose some of that hook point gap. So it's nice to go up a step or two compared to what we would use in the past with a J hook, like maybe a 5 or a 6 out. The circle hook, we might even use a 7 or 8 for catfish, just to have that bigger gap, because we're going to use a pretty big piece of bait. So don't be afraid of using a big piece of bait. So that's probably going to wrap it up for you guys. Aside from crabbing, that's been really picking up. Magathea, Severn, South River over here on the east side. The Chester's doing okay. That's always a little bit slower to get going, but once you get towards August, it's usually when the Chester's going to pick up. Eastern Bay, Crab Alley, places like that have been doing pretty well. So crab is in its full swing, running trout lines this time of the year. You can still do well on pool traps as well, but trout line really starts to take over once you get into the summer months. Of course, if you're looking for a lot of crabs. So I think that'll finish it up. We thank you guys for stopping by, and have a great rest of your weekend.